exactly 10 o'clock. I'd like to ask everybody that's not speaking to mute their microphones and only turn them on when they do speak. And please, for clarity's sake and for the record, if you can announce your name when you begin speaking, that's always very helpful. So, having called the meeting to order, I'm going to ask Mr. Ortiz to call roll for the attendance for the record.
Okay. Okay. Dolores Campion.
Dolores Campion, present.
Suzanne Smith.
Present.
David Morris. James Graves Jr.
Present.
Jeffrey Tahua.
It's Jeffrey Tuawa, and I'm.
That's right. Thank you, sir. Joel Dooley.
Joey Dooley, present.
Oh, Joey. I'm sorry. I have a Joel. Okay, Mr. Bittner, and I'm sorry, Jerry Bittner, presiding officer.
I'm present.
All right, sir. We have a quorum.
Okay. With the roll call, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our next item of business, which is item C, our open government training. And for that, we'll turn that over to Derek Burkhalter, the Assistant General Counsel.
Good morning. Thank you. Mr. Presiding Officer, Advisory Board members, my name is Derek Burkhalter. I'm an Assistant General Counsel with TDOLR. I've been here about 8 years, but I'm new to this program, so this will be my first meeting with you all. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for your service to this advisory board. It's an important service you're doing to the department and for the state of Texas. But the purpose of this training is to just kind of make you aware of some laws that apply to your service on this board and some duties, responsibilities, and possible penalties for certain things. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully it comes up. Okay, can everyone see the PowerPoint slides? Alex, are we good to go? Okay.
Yes, we can see them. Thank you.
Okay, so this is going to cover 3 major statutes. That's the Open Meetings Act, the Administrative Procedure Act, and the Public Information Act. And first, we'll start with the Open Meetings Act. And so the purpose of the Texas Open Meetings Act is to ensure open and transparent government. The act requires meetings of governmental bodies to be open to the public and to be preceded by public notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. The provisions of the act are mandatory and are to be liberally construed in favor of open government. There are a few key concepts that you have to understand when talking about open meetings. The first is the term quorum. So a quorum is a majority of the members of the advisory board as fixed by rule or statute. A quorum of a governmental body, including an advisory board, must meet in order to take an official action. If less than a quorum meets, the board may have discussion but may not take any official action. The next term is deliberation. A deliberation or discussion means a verbal or written exchange among a quorum of a governmental body or between a quorum of governmental body and another person concerning an issue within the jurisdiction of the governmental body. Now, meetings. A meeting occurs anytime a quorum of a governmental body engages in deliberation regarding public business or public policy over which the governmental body has supervision or control, or anytime the body takes formal action. Notice. So the act requires advance written notice of the date, time, place, and subject of each meeting held. TDLR provides this notice in the form of an agenda, like we did for today's meeting. The notice must be filed with the Texas Secretary of State at least 7 days before a meeting and must be posted online both by TDLR and the Secretary of State. An advisory board may not engage in discussions about a subject that are not included in the agenda. So keeping in mind that a meeting occurs whenever a quorum of the governmental body engages in discussion about an issue within the governmental body's jurisdiction, can members ever meet in an informal setting without violating the Open Meetings Act? And the answer is yes. Members are free to engage in conversation that is incidental to the event. However, the discussion will be subject to the Open Meetings Act if a quorum of members is involved, and the members either engage in a discussion or make decisions about board business or take formal action. So some things to remember: always be aware of any situation occurring outside of a properly noticed meeting in which a quorum of members is present or engaged in discussion. Do not engage in substantive conversations relating to board business or policy when a quorum is involved and you are outside of an officially noticed and scheduled meeting. And beware the walking quorum. So a walking quorum occurs when fewer than a quorum of members engage in discussion about official business and then communicate those discussions to other members. While fewer than a quorum of members participate in the initial communication, subsequent communication with other members will result in a quorum discussing official business outside of a public meeting. So an example of this: on a 5-member advisory board, 2 members exchange phone calls and emails expressing thoughts on an upcoming rule change and exchange research that they have each individually performed regarding the issue. Then one of the board members subsequently forwards the exchange to another member. The members have now engaged in a walking quorum by engaging in a small group discussion outside of a properly noticed board meeting. Walking quorums can occur during conference calls, video conferences, hallway discussions, emails, text messages, and other new technologies. The walking quorum concept, combined with newer technologies such as Twitter, Facebook, and instant messaging, raise new issues about meetings and compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So the best practices to avoid a walking quorum: members should not meet in small groups, discuss board or committee business, and then communicate those discussions to other members. So this will include work group meetings. So work groups are when we have you meet in groups that are smaller than a quorum to discuss a specific issue. But when you're involved in those conversations, it's very important to not talk about those work group discussions with other advisory board members for this reason. Members should also not send emails or text messages to a quorum of members regarding official business, even if each email is addressed and sent to each member individually. Members should not create posts on social media about board business where a likelihood exists that a quorum of members could participate in discussions. And members should not ask a quorum of members, even on an individual basis, for feedback or comments on board or committee business outside of the public meeting. This is also called polling, which is essentially conducting an informal vote on an issue. So don't do those things. A few guidelines: a board is limited to discussing the specific items on the agenda. During the public comment portion of the meeting, members of the public are given an opportunity to speak, and the presiding officer may set reasonable time limits on commenters. A member of the public or a member of the board may raise a subject that has not been included in the agenda. However, any discussion of that subject must be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda for a future meeting. And we do that usually on the last agenda item or two, to talk about future agenda items. To avoid violating the act on the basis of insufficient notice, members should limit discussions to the specific agenda items contained in the posting in the agenda filed with the Secretary of State. Members should avoid allowing discussions regarding specific agenda items to wander off course into new issues that have not been noticed to the public. Members should not respond to or discuss issues that are raised during public comment but which are not on the agenda. And members should not specifically identify, or members should specifically identify items for future agendas and communicate those items to TDLR staff. There are some penalties for violations of the Open Meetings Act, some civil remedies. Any interested person, including the media, may petition the courts to stop actions taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And the Open Meetings Act also specifically states that an action taken in violation of the act is voidable. And there are also criminal penalties. Members who knowingly participate in a walking quorum or who knowingly participate in a meeting that is closed to the public are subject to
Something's happened to your audio. I can no longer hear you.
Okay, it seems my audio is not working. Alex, are you having trouble hearing me?
No, sir.
I can hear you fine.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Good here.
So criminal penalties, the penalties are a fine of $100 to $500, confinement in county jail for 1 to 6 months, or both the fine and jail time. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the Administrative Procedure Act. And the purpose of the Administrative Procedure Act, or the APA, is to establish minimum standards of uniform practice and procedure for state agencies and to provide for public participation and transparency during the rulemaking process. So a rule, by definition, is a statement of general applicability made by a state agency that implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy, or describes the procedure or practice requirements of a state agency. And just to be clear, I want to make sure we understand the difference between a statute and a rule. So the statute is what is passed by the legislature, which is what we typically call the law. So that would be, in this case, Occupations Code Chapter 1302, which covers ACR contractors. And so the statute kind of sets the framework for the rules, which kind of fill in the details. And so the rules are adopted by state agencies like our commission. And so those have the effect of law, but they're not passed by the legislature. They're adopted by the commission under these procedures. So a rule excludes a statement regarding only the internal management or organization of a state agency and not affecting private rights or procedures. And a rule includes a new rule, an amendment to an existing rule, and the repeal of an existing rule. All of those are considered rules. There are many different sources that may trigger rulemaking at TDLR. A big one is legislative changes made by a bill passed by the legislature. Advisory boards can often be the source of ideas for rulemaking. TDLR staff can identify ideas. The 4-year rule review is something we do every 4 years for our rule chapters, where the public can send in comments. And then the public can also submit a rule petition if they have a specific rule recommendation they want to suggest. So a rule petition, so any interested person may submit a petition to a state agency requesting the adoption of a rule. An interested person is anyone who is a Texas resident, a business entity located in Texas, a governmental subdivision in Texas, or a public or private organization that is not a state agency but is located in Texas. So essentially, it's anyone in Texas. Now, this flowchart provides kind of a visual of our rulemaking process here at TDLR. So if you start at the top left, so we have the rule idea and drafting. Every rule must undergo internal review and analysis, and then reviewed by the governor's office. And then we will hold our first advisory board meeting where we present the rule to you for your recommendation. And then we file the proposed rules with the Secretary of State, and we have to publish what's called a plain talk summary of the rule. The proposed rules are then published in the Texas Register, which is a formal publication by the state of Texas for things like notices and proposed rules. And that triggers the 30-day public comment period. In that time, anyone from the public can send in comments. We then review all of those public comments, and we would come back to you in a second advisory board meeting to talk about the comments and get your recommendation. And then we take the proposed rules to the commission for adoption. And then an adoption notice has to be filed with the Secretary of State and published in the Texas Register. And then the effective date of the rules has to be at least 20 days past that day of filing. So that's just kind of a visual of how that process plays out. We also have the rule review process that I mentioned. So every 4 years, each of our rule chapters is on a scheduled, basically a time that it's supposed to undergo this rule. We publish a notice of intent to review that gets published in the Texas Register. Again, the public has 30 days to comment on whether they think the rules should be readopted or with changes. We then review those comments and make a recommendation to the commission. The commission reviews the rule filing and comments and may readopt the rules. And then the advisory board will be presented any comments and may recommend changes based on ideas that came out of that rule review. These are some resources if you want to find more information about these topics. These are also in your materials. And then that brings us to the Public Information Act. So the Public Information Act, which is sometimes called the Open Records Act, is intended to allow public access to information about the affairs of government and the official acts of public officials and employees. The Act makes all documents, records, or other information relating to official business open to the public with some exceptions. Public information includes any electronic communication created, transmitted, received, or maintained on any device if it is in connection with official agency business. The Act should be construed liberally in favor of granting requests for information. So to request the public information, anyone from the public may request copies of public information or request to inspect the information in the offices of the governmental body. A request must be submitted in writing. TDLR, we have the TDLR Records Center, which can be accessed on the TDLR website, and that's where people can go to easily submit their requests. We do have a really tight timeline on responding to requests. We have to respond as soon as possible, but not later than 10 business days after receiving the request. We cannot ask why someone wants the records. We can only ask for clarification.
I got audio now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Bittner.
Thank you.
Yes, 1 second, Mr. Bittner.
Yes.
We can hear you. Can you turn your video on, please?
The video is off.
Yes, sir.
Oh, because I'm still.
Always. Okay. All right. Thank you. I just couldn't see it. It's kind of on the bar up there. Thank you.
Okay. General rule and common exceptions to disclosure. The general rule is that there is a presumption of openness, so we kind of start with that presumption. However, certain information is required to be redacted from open records, such as dates of birth, email addresses, driver's license numbers, license plates and VIN records, credit card numbers, and protected health information. If we want to redact or withhold any other information, we have to file with the Attorney General basically a request for a ruling to have that withheld. If you should receive a request in your capacity as an advisory board member, if you receive a written request for records or correspondence that looks like a public information request, please forward that as soon as possible to our advisory board's team, and they will forward it to the Office of General Counsel Open Records team. If we request information from you as an advisory board member, please respond as soon as possible because, again, we have a 10 business day deadline to which we have to reply to that request. And these are some additional materials. Again, they should be in your documents provided to you. And that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions that I can answer? Okay, thank you for your time. And again, thank you for your service. And I turn it back over to you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Okay. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Having completed our open government training, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from the meetings of both March the 27th of 2024 and June the 10th of 2024. At this time, I'd like to call for a motion and then a second to approve the meeting minutes we've just described.
Jimmy Graves, I'll move.
I have a second.
Compion, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so I think the meeting minutes of the previous two meetings are now approved.
Oh, Mr. Bittner, I can do a roll call for that.
Very good, thank you.
And just to clarify, this vote will be for both minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, it's for the meeting minutes of March 27th of 2024 and June the 10th, 2024.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Dolores Campion,
Aye.
Suzanne Smith,
Aye.
James Graves,
Aye.
Jeffrey Tuahua.
Tawawa. Since I wasn't present for either of these meetings, I'm going to mark myself as abstaining
Okay.
for this.
And Joey Dooley.
Same, abstaining, wasn't present.
And presiding officer Jerry Bittner.
Aye.
Okay. We have four approve and 2 abstain.
Okay.
Just a question for our general counsel. Would that constitute approval or?
Yeah, it's approved. We can go ahead and move on.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, go to the next item on the agenda, which is item E regarding public comment. There was a person that wanted to address the board. Is that person present and online and ready to speak?
Yes, bringing him on now. It should be Mr. Scott West.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Mr. West, can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
Okay, Mr. West, this is Presiding Officer Bittner. We'll go ahead and listen to what you have to say today, and you're going to have, so that we don't run out of time, a 3-minute limit on the length of your comment, and at the end, the board is not going to be allowed to ask questions or discuss anything with respect to your comment today. So whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Very good. Yes. So thank you very much to the advisory board for having me out today. And I'd like to discuss the issue of refrigerant safety regulation in Texas buildings and industrial facilities. And let's see, the 2021 International Mechanical Code is the prevailing recommended code within Texas currently. And it references ASHRAE Standard 15, but of course the 2019 version, which would have been the version in effect at the time the code was written. And there have since been 2 published updates to ASHRAE 15, and a lot of these updates pertain to the newer classification of refrigerants known as A2Ls. And given the fact that a lot of these changes are not going to be in the mechanical code fully adopted yet until the 2027 code cycle, my recommendation is that ASHRAE 15 be chosen as an alternative compliance path within the state of Texas for refrigeration systems and refrigeration piping systems. And I believe, ASHRAE is also backing this as well. And I believe the committee may have also received a letter from ASHRAE Society President Bill McQuaid on this topic. And I just want to thank the committee again for hearing me out on this and for considering this important topic. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. West. Having addressed the public comment aspect of our agenda this morning, we'll go ahead now and move on to the next order of business, which is item F, the beginning of the staff reports. To get that moving, we'll call on the licensing division, Christina Guerrero, and get her report on statistics.
Good morning. My name is Christina Guerrero. I work in the licensing division. I'm the team lead on the tools team. What we have here is the statistics for fiscal year 2024 for our air conditioning and contractors, fiscal year 2025, and the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. We also have the registered air conditioning technicians for fiscal year 2024, fiscal year 2025, and the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. And for the certified air conditioning technicians, we've provided the fiscal year 2024, fiscal year 2025, and the first quarter of the fiscal year 2026. We've also included our air conditioning and refrigeration emails received by licensing for the fiscal year of 2025 and for the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. If you have any questions or any concerns, I'm happy to help answer anything that you need.
Yeah, this is Dolores Campion. I do have a question. I think it's more related, and please correct me if I'm not going down the right path. There were some conversations previously in another meeting where, and it's probably been a few meetings ago, where PSI was struggling with capacity. Has that since been looked at, corrected, alternatives?
I would probably need to get back in contact with you and find out the answer of that. We can provide an answer at a later time, but I'd have to look into that to see if it was corrected or not.
Yeah, if so, please do so. I've actually struggled with trying to get a date. There's been months that are completely blocked out, and so just a question. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, this is Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director for Licensing Services. I know that there'll be a report coming up from our Education and Examination Division, and they may be able to address that, and if they can't, we will get you some information before the end of the meeting on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Michael Strawn, Education Examination Director. And as he said,
Thanks, Ford.
Came on camera to basically say the same, but Mr. Complion, we can certainly look at that. We know that we're always working to create additional testing spaces. If you have specific instances of that, we can talk about it directly as well, but I'll highlight some of those things we're doing in the Education Division since I came on board, and we'll address that here in a minute.
Okay, is there any further questions on the statistics? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and move on to item F2, Customer Service Division. For that, we'll call on Patricia Castellan and get her report.
Thank you. Good morning, advisory board members. I'm Patricia Martinez Castellan. I'm one of 3 managers in the customer service division, and I'm the contact person for air conditioning and refrigeration in our division. I'll be reporting our statistics for today, which are broken down by emails and phone calls for fiscal years 2025 and 2026. So far, numbers appear to be consistent with only a slight peak in calls coming into the new fiscal year. This may be due to external factors such as renewals or new applications. We do internally track for license status inquiries to ensure that all of these licenses are being processed as quickly as possible. But overall, that concludes the customer service report. Please let me know if anybody has any questions.
No questions?
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to item F3, our Enforcement Division. And for that report, we'll call on Stuart Bagish, the prosecutor.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Stuart Bagish, and I am a prosecutor in the Enforcement Division, Building and Mechanical Programs, which includes the ACR, Air Conditioning and Refrigeration Program. You have the staff report, which details the latest figures for the ACR program, which include opening more cases in fiscal year 2026 than in fiscal year 2025, managing to close more of them and taking about half as long as it took to close them in fiscal year 2025. The number of complaints received in fiscal year 2026 exceeds the number of complaints received in fiscal year 2025. Following the pie chart on the top of page 2, it shows that the number of cases that enforcement has opened and closed for ACR has increased. The next section is the orders. We have had 12 orders in ACR cases, 10 of which were defaults, and the other 2 of which were agreed orders. And we assessed $35,000 in penalties for ACR cases during fiscal year 2026, of which $3,000 has been collected thus far, and $4,400 in restitution has been ordered. There was one disciplinary sanction, an ACR license revocation during fiscal year 2026 so far. In fiscal year 2025, there were none. Page 3 outlines the numbers for the violations at opening and disciplinary action category breakdowns for ACR as well. Page 4 of the enforcement staff report has the case highlights, which you can read at your convenience. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them at this time.
Yeah, this is Dolores Campion. On your financial penalties assessed for 25 and 26, looks like is the restitution number a combination of the penalties collected, or are those standalone numbers? In other words, I could add those 2 together. Or is the restitution part of the 18,900?
That is something I'm going to have to look into and get an answer to you after the meeting, and I'll follow up and obtain that answer for you.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm asking is that I see that last year we assessed 175, and we roughly, if you add those 2 together, we're collecting about 21% of that total number. So if that's the norm for year after year, what is the total number that we haven't collected in past year to date?
I will have to look into that for you and get back to you on that, sir.
If you would please, that'd be interesting to see. That means that 75% is going uncollected, and that would be a substantial number if we tallied it up year after year. just a question, more for visibility. It caught my eye as I was looking at the data. So with that said, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Compion, this is John Madlock. I'm the chief prosecutor here. I might be able to answer the restitution part of that question. If you look at the penalties assessed, those are the penalties that we're assessing if we're going after someone. Restitution is a separate number. So those two numbers are separate and apart. It is not a combination of those two numbers. And in terms of how much we are collecting versus not collecting, if you actually go to our website on the ACR page, you can go and see the last 5 fiscal years. It'll have all the amounts of penalties that we've assessed and the amounts that we've collected over the last 5 years. Unfortunately, we do have a large number that goes uncollected due to unlicensed activity being the vast driver of that. What we typically do is if we get a default order where someone hasn't come in contact with us, at that point in time, we will, depending on the amount, we will either, if it's below a certain dollar figure, we, the department, will ourselves try to collect that amount. If we're unsuccessful, we'll reach out to a third-party collector service. If it's over a certain amount, we'll actually refer those cases over to the Attorney General's office for their Collection Procedures Act. So while we may not see it initially, we do try to actively collect on those things.
A wish list item. How difficult would it be to put another column there with the total number? Say go back. I don't know. You got it on the website for 5 years. Would it be applicable to kind of throw that in there too?
Are you talking about the total amount uncollected over a certain period of time?
Correct.
Okay. Let me get with our folks and then we can touch on that.
Mr.
I don't want to
Compion,
cause any more work or something.
Yeah.
Mr. Compion, one question for clarification of your request. Is there a specific time period that you would like us to look at to tally up unpaid past penalties?
I would correlate it with what you have on the website. That just for a visual perspective. I've not gone on the website to look, but it just hitting the easy button for me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Jerry Bittner, and I have a couple of questions for you, Stuart. The first question is with respect to the case highlights on page 4. I happen to notice that the dates are from 2022, and I'm curious as to why we don't have more current information if we're talking about fiscal year 2025 and 26.
On these particular cases, those were cases that were opened in 2022. I don't have any information for how long these cases were pending, but we will. Do you have a particular question about the 2 cases that are listed in the highlights, the Young and the Swords cases?
Yes, in fact, I do. With respect to the first case listed, I'm curious as to know whether that's new construction, whether it's a remodel, an add-on to a house, or a equipment change out. It's a little hard to tell what was going on here, but I see a reference to the manual D and J and S calculations. So I'm just curious as to what was going on there.
Okay, that is something that I will have to dig into for you, sir, and report back to you. I do not have that information at my disposal. These were not my cases.
Okay,
I did not handle them.
And Jerry Bittner again. So there's no new information available to the board members with respect to cases opened in 2025 or 2026 fiscal years?
The information that we have that's the current as of January 6, 2026 is in the staff report. Whether there has been a change since then, I imagine some figures may be different because it's been a month and 4 days since then, but I don't know to what degree any of those changes would be significant,
Yeah.
or which of the figures there might be a change to.
And Mr. Chairman, this is Steve Bruneau, Deputy Executive Director for Licensing and Regulatory Services. These cases, although you're correct, and as Stuart mentioned, those are the years they opened. These are simply ones that we wanted to highlight for you. The data is what is updated through the current year. We will certainly look for if there's anything of note that's significant that we want to share with you from more recently. We will be sure to include those updates in your next meeting. But again, these are simply cases we wanted to highlight.
Thank you.
If that's helpful.
In particular, what I was interested in coming to know is, since we're in this changeover period on refrigerants that everyone has been discussing, I'm curious to know whether any of these newer violations that are being observed have their roots in either direct refrigerant changeouts, or whether they're in respect to new equipment or equipment that's due to the changes in the new refrigerants. So that's why I was interested in what was happening in 2025 and first quarter of 26. Oh, gee, I've lost audio again.
Sounding good so far.
Mr. Chairman, you should be able to hear me now. I'm sorry, I
Yes.
accidentally hit mute. I was saying that I appreciate those comments. I know that all of the staff can hear those, and now we can pay particular attention to any cases that contain those elements, and we can be sure to report on that in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions on Enforcement Division?
Mr. Presiding Officer, this is Jeffrey Tawawa. I had one question similar to a question another person asked. So I see on, I think it's page 1 of this section of our packet where it talks about number of complaints closed, average time. My question is what, when we close a case, what is it that we're considering when we actually close it? Is it just the we've officially closed it and now we're moving it on to the actual sort of assessment, or we're sending it off to the Attorney General? What is the requirement that we have to consider a case fully closed?
For the case to be closed, it means it's been reviewed by a prosecutor and the determination has been made that the case will not be prosecuted. And that's typically because there's insufficient evidence with which to prove a violation by a preponderance of available, admissible, and credible evidence. So it's following a determination on the merits of the complaint. The case would be closed, and that no further enforcement action is being taken on the case.
This is John Mellick again, Chief Prosecutor. Stuart's correct. That is one of the indications of why a case is closed. The other one would be if we did prosecute that and take it to an order, the date that the order is signed, we have essentially administratively close it for our tracking purposes for that number. Doesn't mean that the collection efforts don't continue ongoing, whether it be through an agreed order or whether it be through a default order, but just administratively for timeline purposes, so we can track our stats because we have numbers that we have to report to the Legislative Budget Board, the date that order is signed, or the date that we've closed the case because we are not taking any further action. That's when the case is closed.
Okay. Any more questions with respect to enforcement? If not, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item F4, which is the Education and Examination Division. And for that report, we'll call on Michael Ford Strawn, as Division Director.
Good morning, Chairman and members. My name is Michael Strawn. I'm the Director for our Education Examination Division. I started right at the beginning of December, and happy to be on board and looking to bring forward some good changes. But I'll start with our updates today. You'll see on the list that the first up is our ACR Exam Review Committee. Back in May of 2025, many of our talented individuals that we have on our call today, subject matter experts across the industry and our partners at PSI, met to review exam items. During that time, they reviewed 32 items looking for the performance. Are they overperforming, underperforming? Does this question still meet code? Items like that. So you'll see that they edited 16 of those, deleted 2, and then they wrote 73 new items for the item bank. So this could be anything across all the different categories you see within the candidate information bulletin, but props to them. Writing 73 new items across the examinations is a huge undertaking, but it improves the question pool that's out there. It provides more questions and also more security as far as cheating, anything else that may exist. Those examinations went into effect with those updated questions and reviewed items September 1st, 2025. And then next, House Bill 1391 from our 88th legislative session created new pathways for high school college students to earn certification and licensure. And at this point in time, we have these CTE programs that are available for everybody to sign up for, and we do not have any approved as of January 26th. And even today, I do not believe that we have any ACR CTE programs currently approved right now. So if you know anybody that's interested, please email us, contact us, and we'll be happy to walk any of the schools through how to become an approved ACR CTE program with TDLR. I'll move down to the statistics. Up first is our continuing education statistics. You'll see that FY26 to FY25 in this first quarter, we're almost perfectly in line with what we have seen in the past for total course approvals per month and our total course count. We're up just 2 overall. So looking to maintain very steady across the board in our continuing education statistics. We'll scroll down to the examination statistics. So again, we see FY26 compared to FY25. We have a 34.8% pass rate for Q1, and the start of Q2, we have 36.1% pass rate overall, which is consistent with what we've seen in the prior fiscal year as well, anywhere from low 30s to 40% pass rate overall. You see the first time pass rates for commercial refrigeration sit about 50%. For A and B is about 38%. And that's kind of your breakdown. We'll go down to the next portion as well, please. And this is our breakdown of all the different pass rates, how many people passed, failed, retook the test, and their pass rates across each quarter broken out for everybody. Again, we see similar pass rates from past fiscal year to this current fiscal year. I will point out that one of the things that I've been challenging our exam review committees is to look at these pass rates. So when we get back into item writing for FY26 here sometime this year, the thing I've been challenging across not just ACR, but all of our programs is for the subject matter experts that are writing these exam items to make sure that they're really looking for a minimally competent licensee. We don't want to write, many of the people that sit on this board are 20, 30 years of experience, and they know everything. But we need to really look at maintaining safety, but also look at what these minimally competent candidates look like and writing items that speak to that, and hopefully look at what the impact of a pass rate within that factor. If you'll scroll down for me again, Alex, appreciate it. And then this is kind of on that same topic. So what we're seeing here is something y'all have never seen before. In some of our industries where we regulate the schools can see how the students perform across each component within the candidate information bulletin. This is information we're going to make available on our website, where you see the pass rates on our website for your programs. And what this really is a breakout of all of your different license types. I'm just highlighting refrigeration A and B here for an example. But what you see is how they're scoring within those individual categories within the CIB. This has allowed schools in the past that we regulate to kind of see where they needed to improve their education. So if you look at, let's say, the HVAC systems and designs, for example, and the first time examinees, there's 20 overall points they can get there. And the first time they're getting 13.3 points overall. The retakes, the people who failed and are retaking this, actually score lower the second time around, where you would think maybe they've seen it before, they're going to improve. And we actually see that across the board here as far as, you know, where they're really struggling, where the most points are to be gained. And some of these areas they perform pretty well. You know, they're getting 10 out of a total 14 points or more. But in other areas, they are only getting, you know, 11 out of 20. And those are areas where what you can do with this information is those licensees or individuals that are helping train them can actually come back and say, you know what, as an overall, we're underperforming in HVAC system and designs, or we really need to improve the information that we're really telling them about combustion air or controls. And this is really giving you an insight into where they're not just, hey, people passed, we have no idea why. This is really going to allow the state and the industry as a whole to look at where do we need to make incremental improvements to increase that pass rate, putting some information back in the candidates' hands and to our licensees out there. You know, we want to see more individuals come in, get licensed, and get into the industry. But again, we want to maintain safety, integrity of the exam. But by communicating and providing better resources and better information out to you all, we hope that we can organically increase that pass rate by improving their education and their resources available here at TDLR. And lastly, I'll touch on what our former member brought up a few minutes ago. We are, of course, looking at our individuals being able to take examinations quickly. That's a very big concern of myself as I've been in this role for about 2 months, 3 months at this point. Looking at what we can do to provide more examination options. So I would challenge members, if you are seeing your individuals struggle to get an examination in a timely manner, reach out to me. Myself, my team will work with PSI, see if there's surge testing that we can make available. There's a lot of options. There's some tools in our toolkit that I think we should be exercising and making available to the public. And so that's why I'll challenge my staff, my examination manager, to really make sure that we're being as prudent as possible on addressing your concerns. We want every licensee to make sure that they're getting their exams as quickly as possible, because we do know that the faster people test, the more likely they are to test while that information and that education is fresh in their mind. That being said, that concludes my report, and I'm open to any questions that you have.
This is Dolores Campion. I thank you for that. I was looking at that that breakdown, you know, air distribution, basic refrigeration, and look, I commend you and your staff for putting that together. That was pretty awesome. That actually caught my attention too as well. So I wanted to thank you and your staff for putting that together.
Appreciate that, sir. Our staff here works really hard, and we're really hoping to show that hard work to you all, and hope it pays off for the industry as well.
Okay. Not any more questions for Mr. Strawn. We'll go ahead and move on to the compliance division and get the report from Mr. William Weatherly.
Well, good morning, board members and general public that may be looking on. My name is William Weatherly. I go by Bill. I'm the Chief Inspector for Air Conditioning Refrigeration for TDLR and also the subject matter expert. And put together a report since it's been over a year since we've met. I kind of did a year in review thing, so I'll go over it with you. Also on this call is my Deputy Chief, Troy Smart. In January 2025, that's where I'll start. We conducted ACR training for the Enforcement Division, including ACR compliance introduction and discussion of mechanical integrity issues for newly assigned investigators and prosecutors and review for the current team. That's very important that we do that for the new folks. In March of 2025, Laredo, Texas, ACR licensing inspection investigation. We were contacted by LACA, which is the Laredo Air Conditioning Contractors Association, concerning the proliferation of unlicensed AC contractors working in the city, many of whom were advertising openly and pulling permits from the city planning department. We scheduled a 3-day trip to meet with LACA contractors, present our PowerPoint on law and rules, and also met with the City of Laredo Planning Department. Now, we also visited several ACR wholesale supply houses to make our presence known within the HVAC grapevine. And believe me, that is a grapevine. In summary, had a great meeting with LACA. We then coordinated with TDLR enforcement, and they scheduled and completed a very productive unlicensed sting in midsummer. All right, in April of 2025, I was guest speaker at TACA, which is Texas Air Conditioning Contractors Association of North Texas, their monthly contractors meeting held in Grapevine. We gave a presentation including Texas ACR law and rules, legislative updates, and we had a lively Q&A session. Then moving on, in March, Deputy Smart and I participated in ACR exam review with PSI and TDLR E&E division and our industry SMEs. I think they went over that a little bit in E&E before, but the review was held in downtown Austin, Doubletree Hotel. We evaluated test questions based on percentage of right and wrong answers and reconfigured the outliers. We also created new test questions for categories that were short of questions in the data pool. Also that month, my deputy Troy and I, we attended the ADI, that's the Air Distribution Institute. Their national spring meeting was held in the Austin Proper Hotel in downtown Austin. We presented a talk covering Texas ACR law and rules, ACR legislative updates, and participated in a discussion on the state of commercial HVAC projects that included steel duct products, and that's mostly what they were interested in. And then in June of 25, myself, along with the electrical compliance team of Chief Reichel and Deputy Hall, attended a roundtable meeting of city mechanical and electrical inspectors from the cities of Port Arthur, Beaumont, Port Neches, and Orange. We both, myself and the electrical team, gave presentations on Texas law and rules and legislative updates, followed by a whole hour of Q&A. And most beneficial in this was just the exchange of contact information and supportive working agreements. I think will be very protective going down the road here. In September 2025, we had a meeting and conducted an introductory orientation with newly assigned prosecutor, ACR Andrew Linsby. He is on our team now. October was a busy time for public outreach. We attended and presented Texas ACR law and rules at the HVAC Trailblazers meeting in Hurst, Texas. Included ACR contractors from the North Texas area and representatives from TACA and also from PHCC, that's the Associated Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors of Texas. Ongoing in October, we attended the South Texas High School Trades Day at Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio. We set up an information booth to interact with students and their high school instructors. Approximately 1,500 high school students and their sponsors were in attendance. That was very rewarding for me, and I thought maybe, we got our message out, I think, to the high school students that and all these students were in some type of trade. It wasn't just ACR; it was electrical, construction, plumbing, the entire trade in the state. Continuing in October, we attended and presented ACR law and rules and legislative updates in Houston, the Houston TACA monthly meeting. And I will say TACA is probably the premier organization in Texas for ACR contractors. I always like speaking to them. In November 2025, we attended the state convention that's called TACA Live in Conroe, Texas, manned an information booth, attended several breakout sessions. I closed out the conference in the main hall on Thursday, focusing on ACR law and rules. Something that they offered working through our E&E division, TACA did, and the attending ACR contractors were able to complete their CE requirements by attending breakout sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday and attending my presentation on Thursday, closing the meeting, which was kind of nice because they had to attend my talk at the last to get their CEs checked off on that. So that was good. In December, conducted a virtual ACR training for the enforcement intake section coordinated by intake manager Grisela Perez. Then in January this year, I'm working with the executive director of the Louisiana Contracting Licensing Board to develop the ACR licensing reciprocity agreement between the two states, and working with our general counsel, and that's coming along very, very well. And I think that's very important that we have agreements between, especially between our adjoining states during a disaster like Hurricane Harvey, for example. Then just our general operation, ACR compliance reviews, starting in fiscal year 2025 through January 2026. Deputy Smart and I have completed 36 formal ACR case reviews that were sent to enforcement investigators and prosecutors, and we've testified as expert witnesses in 2 SOA hearings during that time, SOA being the State Office of Administrative Hearings. And just a little industry update that I wanted to throw in here. This is from the ACHR News publication. The Environmental Protective Agency, EPA, offered some good news right before the holidays, announcing that it would temporarily deprioritize enforcement on the ban of installing equipment covered by the Technology Transition Rule. This includes R410A residential and light commercial air conditioners and heat pump systems that were manufactured prior to January 1st, 2025, as well as commercial refrigeration, condensing units, and cold storage warehouses. While the rule itself remains in effect, the statement signals a shift in enforcement focus as EPA continues to consider changes to the regulation. The good news for distributors and contractors as they enter 2026, pending the agency's final rule repealing the installation date, A2Ls, which are considered mildly flammable and consist of HFCs, that's hydrofluoroolefins. I think I said that right. I've practiced that. HFOs and various blends of the 2 synthetic refrigerants. Many of the emerging lower global warming potential refrigerants fall into the A2L category and will be used to comply with emerging environmental regulations. The A3 refrigerants like R290 propane, which is included in the A2Ls, has been used in self-contained refrigeration since EPA approved it in SNAP 20 ruling. Many of us understand A3s like propane to be highly flammable, and it's natural to have similar concerns about flammability when working with A2Ls. However, when it comes to flammability, A2Ls are quite different from the A3s. And, at this time, that concludes my, formal report, but I'll stay here. And also, I think my Deputy Troy is online, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. I will say you had a question before, one of you did, about, were any of the enforcement actions included and came about by the change in refrigerant, and I can tell you pretty much no. In other words, those are federal regulations, not state regulations, and so we would, possibly turn that over to the EPA, that kind of thing. So that is, as far as I know, the cases I've reviewed, there were none of them that came about by enforcing a rule that is a federal rule on the type of refrigerants that are installed. Hope that answers one of your questions previously.
Hey, Dolores Compion, Bill, I basically just have a statement. Thank you and your team for all the hard work. I always get some good feedback when you're out there, doing some presentations with the local organizations. So I appreciate you as well. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
And your team.
Well, thank you very much. Yes. I've been out of the industry myself since 2018. And so we try to stay in contact, and talk to the contractors and see what's on their mind. So we're not just in our ivory tower here looking at law and rules, try to get out there and mingle a little bit. So appreciate it. Well, no more
Mr. Bueller,
questions, then we can move along.
I believe you're muted, Mr. Bittner. I think I saw you
Sorry.
speaking there.
Since there's no further questions from Mr. Weatherly, we'll go ahead and move on to item F6, the agency update. And for that, we'll turn to Mr. Steve Bruno, the Deputy Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, board members. It's so good to be with you today. My name is Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director for Licensing and Regulatory Services. And let me begin with that update. Why am I saying licensing and regulatory services? That's not something you used to hear before. The reason I'm saying that is that last session, the legislature once again transferred some assignments and duties to TDLR. Specifically, the Texas Lottery and Charitable Bingo programs were transferred, and those are now a part of our agency, TDLR. So you'll hear us talk about TDLR with the licensing and regulatory side, and then also the lottery and charitable bingo side. Other changes from the session include one impacting this board. There was what we call a cleanup bill. You may recall that the statute previously required 2 ex officio members who were not voting, and that was usually a staff member. It was not effective and something that we didn't feel brought any additional resources, so that those 2 positions were eliminated from this advisory board. The other big change for TDLR is a new program that was created to regulate residential solar retailers. It will obviously impact the electricians program a little bit more than the AC program, but I do want you all to know you may see this and encounter this, and if you have some combined businesses, it may be even impacting you directly. You could recall that you have heard stories for the past few years, especially elderly residents, frankly being ripped off by folks claiming that these solar panels will help them save money and reduce their bills, and there would be no cost, and then those things turn out not to be true. So the new law requires that our agency set up a system to actually regulate those who are selling and installing that product, to help bring a little more integrity and scrutiny. And as you can imagine, there's some amazing players in that industry, some great actors and participants who are providing us help in crafting that program, so that it can deliver the benefits of the solar programs without having consumers confused or even manipulated into purchasing something that they don't want to. Some other highlights for our agency. September 1, 2025 was a big day. We passed more than 1 million licensees among the licensing and regulatory programs. In fiscal year 2025, we had more than 12,000 consumer complaints across the agency. You heard specifically earlier about the ones for the AC program. We conducted 7,000 investigations, and we had more than $800,000 in consumer restitution. You heard about the restitution in your program, and that's one thing that I am very excited about, and I know that our prosecutors are as well. It's a relatively new power that we've been given from the Sunset Bill from a few sessions ago. And what it says is that instead of having to just negotiate a penalty that goes to state general revenue, we are now able, if the parties are willing to work things out, and have restitution paid directly to consumers. So that is a wonderful, I think, aspect of the program. The other big news, the last big highlight I want to give is regarding our TDLR core system, CORE. That is the name that we've been given to our new licensing system. It is about a 3-year project that is going to consist of implementing each of our programs and all of our functional requirements that go across programs into more user-friendly, both internal user and external user, importantly for you, friendly, getting more things online, and just building us out a more modern system. As we get closer to your program coming onto that system, we'll be doing some reach outs with you and the advisory board members to make sure that you have a preview before that rolls out. That concludes my updates, and I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss any comments that you all may have.
This is Dolores Campion. Can you go back for just a second and talk about the eliminated board positions?
Yes,
Did I
sir.
hear that correctly, or did I hear that wrong?
Yes, sir. They were two positions. It was Senate Bill 705 from last session. And what the law used to say was that we were to have two ex officio non-voting members. And since they were non-voting and it was usually staff who participate in the meetings but don't need to be officially on the board, that was the reason for making that change.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Bruno? Now we're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item G for discussion on the impacts of adopting the 2024 editions of the International Residential Code, International Mechanical Code, International Fuel Gas Code, and the Uniform Mechanical Code, all pursuant to Texas Occupations Code at 1302.101. For that, we'll turn to Mr. Derek Burkhalter, the Assistant General Counsel.
Good morning again, board members. Again, Derek Burkhalter here. This agenda item is really just meant to facilitate kind of an open discussion about what the impacts of adopting the 2024 versions of these codes would be for your industry. As you know, we're required to, adopt certain codes as our standards for the statewide standards. And currently, we have adopted the 2021 versions of all of these codes. So we just wanted to get your thoughts as far as, are there any concerns? Are there any areas that would result in cost increases to you in the industry, or just any other discussion that we need to have? We're not taking any action on this agenda item. This is just to inform us as we look forward to proposing rules to possibly update to the 2024 version. And Bill, Weatherly, if you have anything to add, feel free to jump in. But otherwise, I would just like to open it up for any discussion items that you all have.
Well, this is Jimmy Graves. We actually had the same conversation when we were going to adopt the 2021. The codes are adopted by the different municipalities and not by the state. Like City of Houston, really, I think the beginning of 2025 just adopted the 2021. But I've seen some of the smaller little cities within City of Houston are starting to adopt the 2024. But it's all done by the individual municipalities and not anything that we do.
Well, I can address that a little bit. We are a home rule state, and so the municipalities can adopt codes as they wish, as long as they are at least as strict as the state. Okay, so there's that. Now, in the counties, unincorporated areas, it's the state, because they don't have inspectors, and so that when we adopt a rule, that does impact the counties. And also, when I do an inspection, I look at what the municipality, if it's in a municipality, what they have adopted, and we go by that. Now, if there's a safety issue on an additional code issue that the state has adopted, we'll look at that too, and it may be override it. But you're exactly correct, Mr. Graves, that we're a home rule state, and so the cities will be all over the map. So that's what I have to look at. There's some of them that may even still be on the 2012. But if there's safety issues, things that they have to be at least as strict as the state if we come down to it. So I hope that answers your question there. And you did make a statement which was correct. So.
And there's really not a lot of difference between the 2021 and the 2024 codes that I haven't done a complete analysis comparing the two, but just the things that I've looked at, they're pretty much identical.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Graves, because the main thing, the key issue, which is the elephant in the room, is the fact that the A2Ls, are out there. The 2021 specifically, technically, does not allow A2Ls in a residence. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the only, there are no 410A equipment that can be bought new now. All right. So we have looked at whether we wanted to amend the 2021 to add that in there so it's allowed. But I think the way to go is just to adopt 2024. So that's going to be very important.
Yeah. Well, if you can't buy the equipment, it's going to be kind of hard to use it. So,
Well, no, what I'm saying is that the distributors, they're having to, all the manufacturers transitioned from 410A to R42, R32, or 454B. So if you're a contractor and you're buying new equipment to sell now, there's no more 410A out there equipment wise. Now uh, you can buy 410A and you can use it for repair, for anytime down the future, as long as that equipment is there, it's going to go up. All right. But so what I'm saying is technically the 2021 does not allow A2Ls in a residence. Okay. So it's important that we adopt 2024. So we're in sync. Does that make sense to you?
yeah, does make sense. I don't do any residential, so
Yeah.
I don't really
So yeah,
care.
no, I understand. That's when I was in the private sector. I did commercial too. So I mean, but that's very important because majority of what we see and we regulate is residential, and so that's a technicality, and we need to be on the 2024.
This is
So
Joey Dooley
for
here.
that,
I'd also like to add it has new leak detection safety guidelines in it as well that aren't in the 2021 version. So I would agree.
that's correct, Joey.
This is Jerry Bittner. Just as a general discussion point, and I understand Mr. Weatherly's comment about Texas being a home rule state, but it's always been a curiosity to me as to why we have within the state two mechanical codes, international and uniform codes. This is probably an item for the legislature, but I'd just like to get it out and say it once again. It'd be wonderful if we could get rid of one or the other and have a homogeneous adoption of mechanical codes within the state of Texas.
Well, you're going to have a big pushback on that, or we would. The UMC is the grandfather code. It's been around for a long, long time. And on the commercial side, with plumbing comes into there too, as well as mechanical. They are mostly go by the UMC. I mean, it's more adopted to commercial and mechanical and plumbing. And so we don't usually see in the municipalities. They may adopt both because of that, or we may just see the IMC. Now the ICC has kind of come in and you know adopted. I mean, they have a code spectrum that's much wider. Okay, and international residential fuel gas code, all of those codes, the IMC. So I don't see us getting rid of the ICC codes, but I saw Mr. Graves nodding his head about the UMC. I think we'll pretty much headwind if we tried to get rid of the UMC.
That's a true statement.
This is Jeffrey. This is actually an issue that I've worked on for almost 10 years. When I worked on it, there were 36 remaining cities that had the uniform code. There's now 9. I've also been intimately involved with legislation to address that, and I imagine it will probably come back again. But I think for our perspective, I think it's about making sure that staff, as best as they can, until the legislature says otherwise, they're able to operate in a somewhat predictable manner, given that the codes do not necessarily talk to each other. And so I think our job is to make sure that there's an efficient process for staff to be able to, where there is conflicts, be able to figure those out in an efficient timeline.
you know, that will eventually be up to the legislature and we will follow their rules.
Is there any further discussion then on the potential impacts of adopting the 2024 codes? If not, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to agenda item H.
Excuse me, Mr. Presiding Officer Bittner?
Yes.
I was just informed that we did skip one part in item B for introduction for new members. If you'd like to go back to that now, or we can do that at a later time, but just wanted to bring that up.
Yes. What did we miss there, Mr. Ortiz?
It's in item B. It's for introductions for new members.
I see. Well, let's go ahead and move back then to item B and get that missing component in the record.
Okay. Well, we have a new member, Mr. Joey Dooley. If you'd like to introduce yourself, I know you've been going through the meeting already, but if you'd like to do just a quick introduction and then the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I don't know what you're looking for here, but I'll give you a brief one. I'm Joel. I go by Joey Dooley. I've been in the industry since 1994. I work for general manager for one of the largest companies in the country, and this is getting on this board has been a dream of mine for about 10 years, and I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys in Houston, Texas, by the way.
Wonderful. It's good to have you on board, Mr. Dooley.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Was Mr. Dooley the only new member of the board this time?
Yes, sir. I believe that's what we have.
I think I'm technically the new one because I think this is my first meeting because I was appointed, I think, early in 2025.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
I'm Jeffrey Tuawa. I am the weird odd one out. I am a city council member in Dripping Springs, Texas. But in my day job, I am actually president of Associated Builders and Contractors of Texas. So I work at the Texas Capitol. I'm kind of a code junkie, and so when we said start talking technical codes, that's kind of my thing. I've been doing this for about 15 years now, and so that is kind of my realm of expertise. And looking forward to working with all y'all.
Hey, Jeffrey, this is Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director. Thank you for that. Love to get your insight on this and any other programs that deal with the contractors.
Sure.
And I bet you know my friend, the city manager of Dripping, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to college. We went to college together.
Oh,
Sorry to take up the time, but
fun.
let's get together after the meeting.
Absolutely.
This is Dolores Compian. I want to welcome all the new members. I'll just go with trying not to butcher the names too much, but appreciate you, Mr. Joey and Mr. We'll just
Chihuahua.
go with Jeffrey.
It's
How's that
Chihuahua.
sound for the time being?
Yeah, to help everybody, it's Chihuahua, just like Chihuahua, but without the bite, except on Tuesdays. Sometimes I do bite on Tuesdays, but
All right. Well, welcome aboard. Look, it's a pleasure. And so we know who's going to be the new work group person. So appreciate it. And with that said, welcome aboard.
Now, thank you for the new members. Okay, let's go ahead on back up on the agenda to the next item, which is item H. And that's the discussion on the implementation and the progress of the CTE programs that were created under the Occupations Code at 1302.5037. For that, we'll turn to Mr. Derek Burkhalter, the Assistant General Counsel.
Good morning again, Mr. Derek Burkhalter here. So this is just another agenda item where we're not taking any action. We just want to get your feedback and your thoughts. And this is in particular with regard to the career and technology education programs. We just wanted to see kind of how they're going, how they're progressing, if there are any difficulties involved, and those sorts of things. So I'll just open the floor to any comments.
This is Jerry Bittner. The only thing that strikes me was just the fact that, on the initial report that as of today, or as of January 26th, there doesn't seem to be anything moving with respect to creating or getting these new programs approved. And I don't know quite what's going on. It seems like it would be a very popular and appropriate thing to pursue, but for some reason there doesn't seem to be much movement.
Yeah, let me expound on that a little bit. This is Dolores. We kind of covered this back in the July when we were, I think we're talking about the same programs. And so, it was a heavy push and we kind of ran into it. And then this year gap that we've had between the meetings, we kind of lost more of the informational piece on that. So maybe we can put this, we can save this for the last agenda item, but, recap for the new members on the team and even some of the previous members or existing members to kind of get a recap as to, where we're at with that from implementation stage, because kind of lost track of it.
Yes.
Well, I can comment just briefly on that, since I have been talking to, some of the school officials and was at the big South Texas trade uh, conference, for students. This CTE program was created by the legislature. We're trying to implement it, and it consists of for high school students, not only classroom but also on the job training. Like the old trade uh, programs that used to be in the schools. Well, the problem in getting it rolling is that schools have to budget this, okay, and they have to right, if they're interested, it may take them a year or more, to budget this and get this thing rolling. And it does include instructors from the ACR industry. Uh, the instructors for this school or this class, if you have a CTE program in your high school, can be air conditioning contractor or certified technician, and they get some credit in their CEs if they do that. And so I think it's a strong program, to get young people interested and back in the program. We're kind of graying out in the trades a little bit, and it's been pushed aside. Everyone, parents want to get their kids in college. That's the only thing they want to do is go. Well, it's the trades can be very lucrative as well, and so this is why the legislature came out with the law that they did, and I think it's just going to take time. And we will certainly try to sell the program, to the school boards. But my opinion, the way to get this rolling is to go to the the you the school officials start at the top, and that's where top down,
Right. Yeah.
school superintendents. When I was in the private sector for Johnson Controls, that was one of my categories that we sold shared savings with the school superintendent. And if you go to the school superintendent of that school ISD, you're going to get some move, some push there. And so that's just my own opinion. And I'm adding this in, but I think that the program will be successful. It's just going to take time, with it.
Thank you, Bill.
Certainly.
That's helpful. And along those lines, just a question: as this program was created, has there been an agency or an individual within an agency, somebody who is designated to quote unquote, so to speak, go stir the pot? In other words, to interact with these superintendents or the people who would be, you know, likely to move this ball forward? Or is it just got passed in legislation and it's just sitting there? There's no one advocating for it.
Well, maybe Steve Bruno can answer that a little bit, but I think also our advisory board, if you all really understand the program and see what we're doing, you could be advocates as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have one kind of high level question about the program. So one of the things that I've been observing with different training programs is there was recently a change to what is a qualified teacher in legislation, which has actually prevented certain experts from being able to train some of these high school students because they now don't meet the definition, which is really it's a degree plus some other extra stuff. And I wanted to see if our program that we're looking at and talking has been affected by that, or if that's something that we have run into yet. Because we did have, I know there was um, at least 3 school districts with one of my training centers in Corpus Christi that they had to pull out like 400 students because all of a sudden these people from the plants who were teaching pipe fitting, welding, things like that were no longer considered qualified teachers under the new legislation.
Yeah,
Well,
this is Dolores Campion. I briefly I'm in the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District, and they're building a multi-million-dollar facility calling it a technology center. I had the opportunity to talk to one of the representatives here a while back, and I hadn't heard much from it, but they're a little foggy on the process. To your point, sir, is that based when we were talking to some of the board members from the education department, they thought they had cleared that path. I'm speaking specifically for our program, where the license itself, and there was a process with the superintendent to hire a non-college graduate with a non-teaching certificate to be able to teach the course. Now, I can't speak for the other programs, obviously. So, but I'm gonna try to reconnect with that member from that particular the superintendent of that particular school. I said that wrong, and I'll try to get some insight as to how the schools are looking at it. I also heard that there isn't one advocate, whether it be a board member or whether it be the TDLR, maybe through the public relations office that is advocating for this program. So, obviously, like I said, big push in the beginning. Did the voting, did the work groups, got with all of the stakeholders, and it kind of died out. So maybe we just need to rekindle that. Mr. Bruno, maybe you and myself can get together. I'll try to be an advocate for that, but I also need the guidelines as to what I can say and what I can't say, and what we can commit to and what we can't. So with that said, appreciate you.
Michael Strawn, Director of Education. It's a really good topic here, and on our website, we have the process flow for any of these high schools. So anybody that's out there talking to anybody, they can go to our website, see what it takes, fill out the application, to be a CTE program. I will say you heard Chief Weatherly talking about, it's kind of a collective effort, and I really believe that's the answer for this. There are some hurdles, as Mr. Tawa, I butchered that. I'm so sorry, sir. Mentioned, as far as teachers and everything else, but getting this information out, myself, I actually have an outreach team within our education division. I think that I can have them collaborate with Chief Weatherly and his deputy, along with anybody else, to make sure that when they're going out talking, whether it's he highlighted the Beaumont outreach they did last year, incorporating those things into it. The more people that we have on the ground in these communities, in these areas, talking to the school officials, the administrators, teachers that they have there, is going to help get this message out. And as Mr. Weatherly said, starting at the top, the higher you start up and really show the benefit of this, the easier it is to sometimes get the traction in there. But I'll leverage my outreach team to work with our ACR chief and deputy, see what kind of materials we can get to them when they're out doing their public speaking, and certainly when we're doing ours We want to leverage this as we believe this is an avenue to bring in talented young individuals who are seeking a career that can better their life. So we're really passionate about it, and we'll do what we can to get this information out.
Yeah, this is Dolores Compion. One of my concerns when I was talking to this representative was that they were going to kind of run a modified program of what meaning that I had not been to the website and actually looked at it. I was part of the work group, but I have not been to the website, to be honest with you. And so I was hearing some modified version of what, and if they're running some type of modified version program of it, would that be reflective so that young individual could collect the hours? That was my concern, was that if they're going to run a pseudo or a modified program, what would that look like, and would that student get credit for those bigger hours, right? And so a good dialogue. Be more than happy to participate. And with that said, thank you.
I will say one more thing, reference to Mr. Chihuahua and what he said before about the being able to teach, in the school district. We did work with TEA, when we're developing our rules, and I believe that hurdle has been cleared, I think, through the legislation and working with TEA, but that would be something to look into. Again, be very important if a air conditioning contractor or certified technician, we're qualified for instructors and we're giving them credit for the CEs. I believe that hurdle's been achieved and crossed, but certainly,
Yeah.
I'm not the last word on that for sure.
I would definitely be curious to know who you've talked to, because I spoke to the commissioner, and all I kind of got was an oops, we should look into that. And that
Yeah,
was pretty
right.
recent. And so
That's right.
I think there's probably, I think it's totally unintended consequence, but obviously would hate for it to affect not only our program that the agency is, pushing and trying to work with schools, but all of a bunch of programs, because, I think there's
Absolutely.
significant
Agree.
enough that all of us need to be,
Yeah.
putting out as many kids as possible. And who better to teach them than, individuals who, they don't have a college degree, but have 30, 40 years of experience on the job. Like, that's the person that I want to be learning from.
Righto.
I have a kind of I don't know if it's a question, more of a statement. I work for one of by the way, I think this is tremendous, and this may sound negative. I don't mean it to be, because I think it's tremendous and it's great for our industry. But as the consolidators grow and grow and grow, and our industry moves towards a lot of the companies being bigger and bigger, one of the challenges that we have, speaking from experience, is we can't employ these 18-year-olds and get them insured. That is a challenge for a company my size. So is there something that we have in the works to connect these 18-year-olds with companies that they can actually work with? Or are we just hoping to turn them loose and say, hey, we educated you, and get out there and find a job? Because I think, as I know in Houston, that the consolidators, we own this market. There's some mom and pop still out there. I agree, but it's going to be very difficult for an 18-year-old to find a job with one of the larger companies. So I don't know, again, if that's a question or a statement, but I would love to be able to hire these guys, but they can't drive for me or operate any of our machinery till they're 21. Our insurance won't allow it.
The problem is you're competing with the local unions too, who are recruiting those high school kids pretty heavy, because that's where their people come from. And they do go work for the big companies.
Mhm. Yeah, that is another path. The working for the union company, going through the UA program, apprentice program, is another great way. And so that just another path, for a young person to go. But that's Mr. Dooley, as being the general manager of a company, large air conditioning plumbing company. Before I came on, that is a concern. Especially driving a truck, right, and getting insured, at 18. So those are real issues. Appreciate you bringing that up.
Derek Burkhalter here. I wanted to go back to a previous comment, to get maybe some clarity. There was a comment about the individuals who are authorized to instruct the CTE course. Someone said that we had imposed a limitation on that. I was just looking at our rule at rule 75.124 at subsection C. It says the course must be instructed by a department licensed ACR contractor or a certified technician whose certification was issued on or after September 1st, 2018. I just wanted to get clarity on which individuals are being left out by that rule.
Sure. So the legislature, and I can send you the bill number, Derek, passed a bill when they were trying to expand some of the overall CTE programs, and when they did that, there was a lot of discussion as to what a qualified teacher was, and so when they went in there, they basically made it an equivalent to what is a certified teacher for other purposes, and they just cross-referenced, and in the cross-reference essentially said you have to meet the same standards. And so what has happened is that unless the person is kind of already meets the requirements for a certified teacher, you can't really bring in anybody outside of that into these CTE programs. And so in my instance, we had my organization had several training centers that we had entire school districts pull out because none of the teachers met the standard for qualified teachers anymore. And so they pulled out. And so that's really, and it's something that we are looking at trying to fix and correct because we think it was just a plain oversight. But it is a challenge that is slowly making its way to other programs. And so I just wasn't sure if it had started to affect ours at all. But yeah, it was a fun little oops in cross-referencing.
This is Steve Bruno. Excuse me, Derek. Thanks for jumping in on this. I don't think that should affect our program because in our program you have to have our air conditioning contractor license, or even a certified tech after 2018. So please jump in, Derek. But I think if you meet one of those two for this particular program, you should be okay.
Well, it could be a deal stopper. I mean, Mr. Chihuahua is correct. If the TEA doesn't allow it, then they have to meet
I
the
don't think
other
they should.
certifications. That
get
needs
too
to be
far off.
addressed before we go any further, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they should be stopping this one, Bill. But I don't want to get too far off. But let's go ahead, Ford.
No, you're okay. You were saying what I was going to, so.
I'm good.
Well, that's a question, for the TEA, the legislature. We need to get that cleared up.
Yes.
So Michael Strawn, Director of Education Examination, myself and Chief Weatherly, we'll put together some time to meet and discuss this topic along with Derek, our GC, and see what we need to do to solve this. If there's any rule amendments or clarification on their side that we need to seek, we'll get that done.
Include Mr. Chihuahua if we can. He's had some experience that way.
Okay. Wonderful discussion. Anything further to chat about on this topic before we move on? With that, we'll go ahead and move on to item I of the agenda, which is the presentation of the enforcement plan and some related discussion. And we'll turn to Mr. John Medlock, Chief Prosecutor.
Good morning, board members. Again, my name is John Medlock. I am the Chief Prosecutor for the Enforcement Division here at TDLR. I will be presenting the updates to the ACR penalty matrix and enforcement plan. I think Alex is working on sharing that document right now so you guys can see that. But just a little bit of background, because I know we have a couple new members here. What exactly is our penalty matrix? So you heard us, Stuart Baggage, our prosecutor, one of the prosecutors for building mechanical programs, talk about cases and complaints and orders. So essentially, complaint comes in the door, we do investigate it, and then once a prosecutor determines what to do, one of the determinations, in addition to whether or not there is a valid reason to go forth with the case in terms of issuing a penalty or sanction, is we consult with this document that we call the penalty matrix. The penalty matrix basically takes all the laws and rules within this program and puts it into a document that's being shared right now. It's in different classifications from least serious to most serious, Class A being the least serious, Class D being the most serious. You'll see that there's a range of penalties within each classification. They go up in value as the severity of the violations increase. We also try to group like violations by subject heading. You can see on the screen right there, there's advertising violations. Then we also try to put in what we call plain talk, kind of a easy way to understand what the violation is, along with whatever the citation is, so you can go see what the full text of the law or the rule is. So we try to put this all out there. It is on our website for everyone to know. A couple important things to remember is this document is kind of binding on the prosecutors. And what I mean by that is if you fall into a Class B violation, you're going to get somewhere between, for that particular violation, somewhere between $1,000 to $3,500 penalty, and or up to a full year suspension of the license. Essentially, if you we have multiple prosecutors, so we want to make sure that if the same violations are coming across, that you don't get the easy prosecutor or the hard prosecutor. You get the same consistent prosecutor across the board. It also provides notice to the public as to what potential violations could be, or actually the respondents as well, what they could be facing in terms of violations that they might be seeing when these documents, these notice of alleged violations do get issued. And in this particular document, some changes. We did have some minor citation changes to the laws and rules over the course of the last few years. This one's been in the works for the last several years. So over the course of the last couple of legislative sessions, there were some citation changes. So we made those updates. Kind of some of the bigger ones were in the Class C range. If you remember, we added a provision or an ability to have what we call a restricted license. Now, what is a restricted license? So prior to the legislation, you either got the full license, either it was the technician registration or the ACR contractor license. It was a full license. It had no kind of as to where or what you could work on other than the and those kinds of things. But ultimately, everyone that had that license could work, whether it be industrial, commercial, residential. It allowed you to go wherever. A restricted license was for those folks that were maybe had some criminal conviction history that may not have normally allowed them to get the license, but the legislature allowed kind of a second chance, a kind of a pathway to kind of work their way back into the system. So basically, if someone has some criminal history that may have prevented them previously from getting a license, we can now issue what we call a restricted license in this program. It allows us to put terms and conditions on the person. It allows us to maybe prevent them working in a certain kind of area. Maybe it's we don't want them working in a commercial setting. Maybe we don't want them working in a residential setting. So we can kind of put those terms on that person. It's for a year with the presumption is that they'll get the full license if nothing bad happens in between that. But because we did put those new kind of abilities in there, we had to create new violations in the event that somebody does violate the terms of those agreements. Also, there's some supervision requirements that there do have to have a supervisor of the person that does have the restricted license. So if the supervisor fails in their responsibility, some of those violations have been added into our Class C. Additionally, we've added some what we call Chapter 60 violations. So Chapter 51 of the Occupations Code is TDLR's kind of umbrella statute that kind of basically says that TDLR is an agency and we regulate a vast number of different programs. Chapter 60 are the rules that kind of apply across the board with all those programs. So some situations like failure to cooperate with investigations, failure to provide documents or interfere with these investigations have been added to that. We typically add those across the board for all of our programs. So just kind of adding some of those updates as well. So Alex has kind of been going through briefly. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on this document or any of the changes that we have made or incorporated. Ultimately, my ask would be that you would adopt the, vote to adopt these amendments and changes to this so that we can send this and recommend that you send this to our commission for the ultimate adoption by them so that we can implement this as an agency and my prosecutors can use going forward. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Medlock on the enforcement plan? Well, I have one. What do we need to do, if any, Mr. Medlock, to move this forward into a phase for recommended adoption?
We would just ask that you take a vote that you approve the changes and recommend adoption by our commission.
Do we need? Can we do that in this meeting, or does that have to be on the agenda for the next meeting?
You can do that in this meeting here, sir.
Okay.
You need a motion?
I would need a motion in a second and a vote.
Yes.
All right. James Graves, I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Jeffrey Tuala, I'll second.
Okay. Can we get a roll call on a vote?
Okay, Dolores Campion,
I have an aye, but with a little discussion. Previous years, I know it doesn't, not always necessary, but could you put I can't see it on this screen, maybe it's there, maybe it's not, but a little highlighted item, highlight the change, like a O code book would do. That way we can kind of take a look at it. That's my only ask, but I have an aye.
Suzanne Smith,
Aye.
James Graves,
Aye.
Jeffrey Tuala,
Aye.
Joey Dooley,
Aye.
and Presiding Officer Jerry Bittner.
Aye.
Okay, sir, the motion has passed.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item J, the potential appointment of any work groups or possible assignment of tasks. We'll get Mr. Derek Burkhalter to elaborate on that.
Thank you. Derek Burkhalter here. So as you may know, work groups are smaller groups that are less than a quorum. And we usually have them divided up by subject matter, like licensing or enforcement or something like that. And that allows us to bring you technical issues or review of documents in a smaller group to work out some of the technical issues before we take it to the larger advisory board. So, I think we probably have some work groups already appointed, but now is your opportunity, Mr. Presiding Officer, to mix those up or appoint new folks to different work groups. Of course, our new members will also need to be appointed, but it's at your discretion, Mr. Bittner, what those assignments are. So I turn it over to you for that discussion.
I didn't see anything in this agenda that moved to the necessity for work groups. Did I miss something?
I don't think any specific topics came up, but we usually just have standing work group assignments. Alex, do you have anything showing our current assignments so we can use that as kind of a model?
Yes. Okay, so let's see, what is sharing here? We give it up. This is what I have so far. This is from the last. Is that sharing? I'm sorry.
Yes, it's sharing.
Okay. This is what we have since the latest. And of course we can either reorganize and or even if we need to rename some of these, because I know some of these look like they're for specific issues at the time.
Yes, they were.
So
And that's why I was a bit puzzled that we would, because I didn't see anything in this particular agenda that rose to the level that needed an assignment of a work group to it.
Dolores Compion here. So I guess, yeah, I was part of those work groups. I remember being, longstanding. So are we saying today, would it be more advantageous to develop the work group as the agenda item comes up, or or do y'all want to pursue this, a standing group already in place?
Yes, I see the confusion here. I always thought that these work groups were established for a very specific task, and that once that
Correct.
task was completed, that work group was disbanded and would be another work group would be created if and when an agenda item rose to the level that required that.
This is Derek Burkhalter. We do it both ways, kind of. Usually, for most programs, we have some standing work groups for things like we'll have a licensing work group to deal with licensing matters or enforcement, like you see here, or just a general rules work group because we will have proposed rules coming up. But it's better to have those standing work groups. That way, we don't have to have a meeting with you all to take something to a work group if we have an enforcement matter come up.
I see.
And then in addition to that, we can also have special work groups that have a particular task. And then once that task is done, they can wrap up and be done. But I think we in the department prefer to have some degree of standing work groups so that we have someone designated to go to when issues come up.
I see. That I personally lost track of who was on what individual work groups, and of course, some of those members are probably not involved in that board any longer, right? Without having to.
Yeah, there's quite a few members that I saw that as Alex was flipping through the pages there that are no longer on the board and hadn't been for some time now. I've seen a work group as far as 2018 in there. But I would, I'll voice my opinion on this, is that it would help expedite, the process, having some work groups in place. And if modifications need to be made at a particular time, I'm all for it. So,
Sure.
Sir, that would be up to you, Mr. Bender.
Can we go back through these and see what's currently existing? Because we have an enforcement work group. It would have been helpful coming into this to have this information so that we could, have been a little bit more prepared for this.
Yeah, that's what caught me, off guard with the penalty matrix is that we always used to go through the work group, a work group, talk about it and then propose it at the next meeting. But it obviously would help expedite the process. I know that the staff members there at the TDLR have multiple boards to deal with. So I think it would only be beneficial for them.
Yeah. Could see these member, boy, can we do this? Can we get this published so that we have a list of all the existing work groups and table this for an agenda item for the next session and finalize or firm up board members that can or will participate in each one of these identified work groups?
yes,
Yes.
sir. I can I can email the board members a copy of this document, and then we can kind of go from there to how we want to, or how you'd like to assign the members.
Yeah, I think going forward, if we can identify the necessity for a work group on an individual topic, and of course it would have to be somewhat broad-based, because I don't think it makes sense to create a work group for some niche item that will never appear again. And then we could firm up with respect to current membership, who's willing to participate in each of these newly identified or kind of grandfathered, so to speak, work groups. So I know it'd be helpful for me to be able to look at them and correlate them with all the current board members, and then firm up in the next session how many we're going to have and who's going to be on them.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll get that published and distributed, and will that be then an agenda item for the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Because I know that's the next item K.
Yes, well, this will definitely go on on the agenda for the next meeting, and obviously before that meeting, you'll receive the document with how they can be structured.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on the work groups or assignment of tasks at this point? If not, we'll go ahead and move forward to item K on the agenda, which is the recommendations for additional agenda items for the next board meeting. Does anybody have anything that should be an agenda item in the next board meeting? Nothing specific. Other
And
than,
I will add, sir, that if any of the board members, if anything comes up even after this meeting, you can definitely email me, and I will definitely add that into the next agenda.
okay. And moving on, I'm sorry.
This is Dolores Campion. Is there I know there's a lot of new staff members, and is there like an org chart? Would that be on the TDLR website as well? I would like to know who's our attorney for the board. I know that's kind of changed. It was Doug, and now I'm not really clear. So
Yeah,
is there?
hi. I'm sorry, this is Derek Burkhalter. I'm the assigned assistant general counsel for the program currently. We could possibly give you an org chart, but it's a massive document that
Yeah,
it's
it's massive. I kind of want to be respectful and go like, look, I don't know who's doing what, but if you can just, I'll get with Alex, and I can get your contact information. I can put it in my contact list, so I won't be sending emails to folks who are just going to just kind of push me around to somewhere else, and so just kind of want to get to the root. And so with that said, Alex, if you can help us out, the contact list for the stakeholders of this particular board as well, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yes, sir.
Moving on then to item L, the staff will poll the board at a later time for a future board meeting. I have a general question. It's been a long time since our last board meeting, and I'm curious to know what we should expect moving forward with respect to scheduled board meetings. I thought we were supposed to have like 2 a year.
Derek Burkhalter. So there's no requirement in statute or rule. Generally, we have them, when the need arises, but I know our new executive team wants us to start having them more frequently. We are looking at proposing some rules soon for this program. And so our next meeting, I anticipate, will be within the next couple of months to look at those proposed rules. So it shouldn't be too long this time.
Okay, thank you.
Dolores Compion, historically speaking, we kind of used to meet once a quarter. You know, once every 6 months. Like I said, I'm not sure how much interaction with the actual business that would, you know, what the need actually is. But in years past, I've been a member for some time now, and so we historically used to meet once a quarter. And so then we went online, Teams calls, Zoom calls. So with that said, maybe I'm just stating an opinion. Once a quarter would be keep up to date with things.
Yeah, it's Jerry Bittner. It seemed to me that oftentimes it was necessity driven, being that the board meetings seem to be more frequent out of the need based on what was happening after a new legislature session. You know, the legislature would come in and so many things respecting our particular program would be on the board. And so there was a lot of activity necessitated by the advisory boards at those particular points in time. And then there seemed to be a lull in the activity, so to speak, after we cleared the deck of all the most recent legislative items, and then the participation of the board was not as frequent. And I just was kind of curious as to whether or not we might see something similar moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if that was a question, but yeah, we do anticipate meeting soon for proposed rules, and then meeting a second time once they're published and once we receive public comments.
Okay. So with respect to item L, then the staff will poll the board members at a later time for the future board meeting. And with that, we'll go ahead and move to item M, which is adjournment. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and